Too close. Sean's party trick. That's disgusting. That is disgusting. I've crossed the channel for the second time this summer. This time I am with a very old friend of mine, Sean. There's Sean. And we're doing the South Downs Way this time. So I've come across just for a few days, took the ferry a couple of days ago, and I'm going to go taking the ferry back tomorrow night, back to France. But this time we're doing the 160-kilometre South Downs Way bike tracking route, which is quite a famous route here in the southern England, and we've chunked it down into 3 days. So we started in Winchester yesterday morning. We're now on the middle of our second day, and we're going to finish in Eastbourne tomorrow afternoon. The big reason for doing this route this time was, firstly, it's just been absolutely spectacular, a fantastic trail. But when we were looking at routes to do, this one was described as a southern off-road utopia, which we wanted to put to the test, really. And also, one of the big recommendations of this route was, I mean, I hope Sean doesn't mind me saying, but this is your first multi-day trip, I think, bikepacking trip. And the description, this recommendation for this route was that it was a fantastic initial foray into the world of multi-day bikepacking. I have to say, we're coming towards the middle or the end of our second day, and it's been absolutely brilliant. Like, really, really good trail, and lots of fantastic scenery. So, hope you enjoyed the film. And at the end of the film, we're just going to do the images at the end of the film. What I'll do then is just have a little chat through where we stayed, what we packed, all that kind of stuff, for those people who might want to do the South Downs Way themselves. All right, hope you enjoy the film. Sunflowers. Yeah. We're about to go through one of the 150,000 gates that there are. Yeah, designed by the devil. Straight up and over. There's people walking, look.
Yeah, it does. What's the dot there? Food.
Good food?
Cycling food.
Cycling food.
Yeah.
We're falling off. Taking the tumble. Yeah, plenty of ups and downs. Look at this, another hill, another stunning view. Look at this.
Big point over there.
Yeah, bit of trig point, bit of a slow 360. Look at this. South Downs Way is good. Very beautiful. There's a trig point there. Not sure where we are. There you go. Beautiful route. Lovely. Brambles. First mechanical. Oi! Yeah, how you doing? Okay. So here we go. At our campsite for the night. There's our shower block. There's our toilets. There we go. I think Sean's impressed by the luxury of our overnight accommodation. All right, Piggy. We come in peace. We mean you no harm. Well, at least we're beating the cows up hills. Faster than summer. There we are, brilliant. So I think we have got maybe, that's Eastbourne, I think it's about 3 miles away or so. So just at the end of our third day, I think we are something like 55k into our ride today. About mid-afternoon. It's been absolutely fantastic day, like brilliant. We've been so lucky with the weather. The South Downs Way is to be recommended. It's absolutely fantastic route. Loads of little pubs on the way, cafes, youth hostels. The riding's gorgeous. Yeah, it'll be absolutely brilliant. So we're just going to cycle down to Eastbourne now and then get the train back to Brighton, and then I'm going to take my home or get home on the overnight ferry tonight, which I have to say, when I booked it, felt like a really good idea. But right now, 60k of mountain biking, and I've got to get the ferry at midnight tonight. Not really looking forward to it. So I hope you enjoyed the film, and please like and subscribe because it really does help the channel. So what I'm going to do now for those people who are interested is just go through how we organised our trip and what kind of worked for us. We had a great time, so maybe what we did might work for other people who also want to do the South Downs Way. So it's 160 kilometres long, as I think I said in the film, and what we did is we chunked it down into 3 days. So the first day, the first morning, we took the train from Brighton to Winchester. We got there about mid-morning, and then we cycled about 60 kilometres to Cocking, which for us was a really good place to stop because we wanted a camp. We were working on a bit of a budget, so we really didn't want to break the bank on our accommodation. And in Cocking, there's a campsite called Manor Farm, and that meant we could stop there and do the camping. Now, Manor Farm was really, really friendly. They had a great breakfast roll the morning after our night there. I'm not sure it would be to everybody's taste. The shower facilities are fine if you like being hosed down with cold water in a mini cowshed. If you don't, it might not be to your liking and you might want to stay elsewhere. But for us, it was fine. We were only there for one night and we were able to brave the cold water and then move on quite happily the next day. The second day, we cycled, I think, about 40k, 45k, something like that. And we went from the Cocking campsite through to Truly Hill Youth Hostel. And there we stayed in the youth hostel and we had comfy beds for an evening. Now, Truly Hill is great as well. Really, really reasonable prices. And obviously it gave us a bit of a better night's sleep. Truly Hill also serves food, and for real bonus, it has a bar, which I was really expecting. I didn't realise youth hostels did that. So we spent a very nice evening, and that really set us up well for the third day. And our third day then went from Truly Hill to Eastbourne train station, and that ended up with about another 60-kilometre day. And then we took the train back to Brighton that in the afternoon, and then hence I then took the ferry back to France, which was absolute torture because it was an overnight ferry. The terrain throughout was absolutely fantastic. I don't think it ever got particularly technical. We were on mountain bikes and were able to cope comfortably with the terrain. We passed a number of people on gravel bikes, and gravel bikes certainly, I don't own a gravel bike, but gravel bikes certainly seem to be able to cope with the terrain no problem. And we even passed a couple of people on shopping bikes, and they were having a bit of a harder time of it, but seemed to be doing okay. One word of caution, I think, for the South Downs Way is that we were really lucky with the weather. And I think if you have rain, the chalk gets really, really slippy, surprisingly slippy. And I think in the film, Sean takes a bit of a tumble, gets caught out. Unfortunately, he was going first at that particular point, and he caught out but a bit of a chalk and was taken by surprise by that. But nothing there very technical. It is quite a challenging route. I think we recorded the 3 days on Strava, and in total, it said that we did about 3,500 meters of ascent. So the description for the South Downs Way is that it's undulating, and it's certainly that. There was a lot of quite challenging ascent at times. I think particularly on day 2 and day 3, particularly as we're approaching Truly Hill and then Eastbourne. But I do think a cyclist with reasonable fitness and somebody who's relatively confident on some of the descents would certainly cope quite happily with the cycle. We took a sleeping bag, tent, and sleeping mat because we wanted to camp. We didn't take any stove at all because what we were trying to do, there are loads of bars and restaurants and cafes and pubs and youth hostels, very, very friendly. So what we were planning to do was stop and get food and drink along the way. That meant that we could keep our packs light. So I think basically we took our camping gear. I'm a bit disgusting, so I only took one shirt and one pair of shorts, a bit of stuff for the evening, a repair kit for the bike, and my camera gear, and that was about it, really. So very, very light. We also met, I think it's worth saying, we also met people who were traveling even lighter than us, and some people, rather than doing the route in 3 days, actually break it down into 2, so they only do one over, so it's an 80 and an 80 day, 80 kilometers and 80 kilometers, and I think we even passed one guy who was doing it in who was doing it in one push, and I think for that you need to be pretty fit. But the really nice thing about the South Downs Way, and the thing that I really like about it, is that you're surrounded by Lewes and Eastbourne and Brighton and Winchester, so lots and lots of stuff going around. And really, that route, you can make it as easy or as hard as you want. We wanted to enjoy it. We went it relatively slow. We wanted to stop and have coffees and have chips at lunchtime. But other people obviously can make it a much more challenging, fitness orientated outing. So the lovely thing about the South Downs Way is that ability to do, or to kind of make the challenge what you want to make of it, which is really, really nice. So right at the start of the film, I talked about whether this would be the perfect first bikepacking trip, and the answer is absolutely. It's brilliant. It's brilliant. I've done quite a lot of bikepacking, and by no means did it feel tame. It was challenging enough, it was picturesque, the scenery was great, the trails were fantastic, so it presented enough challenge for me, whereas for Sean, it was his first ever trip, and it was maybe a little bit more challenging places for him, but it certainly was something that was achievable and a really, really good introduction to the whole activity of multi-day bikepacking. The other thing, obviously, the description we talked about as well was whether it could be described as a southern off-road utopia, and yes, absolutely. It was just a pleasure from start to finish, and I think what really hit both myself and Sean was how in such a crowded and populated part of the UK, the southern English coast, how you could find such emptiness. It was fantastic, and really at points we felt very, very high, because we had this fantastic vista over the villages and towns below us, but also very, very few people around, which is a real treat in that type of environment. So absolute thumbs up. I can totally recommend it. And if you want to have a first multi-day bikepacking trip, you could not really do much better then choose to go on the South Downs Way. So what I'm going to do as well is I'm going to put some in the comment section down below the film. I'm going to put some links to Manor Farm if that's to your liking. We'll also put some links to Truly Hill, and I'll also put some links to the general kind of information websites that we use to help us plan our trip. So if you do get the South Downs Way, I hope you have a great trip. And if you want to know any more information, then please just leave me a comment. I'll try and do my best to answer it. Happy cycling.